What's going on, YouTube? It is Kyle again with DTOM Knives and Gear. And today we've got a little discussion topic that I'm going to go over with you guys today. I might air this, I might not. Don't know how it's going to go. It's not scripted. We're just going to have a discussion about should you buy an expensive knife? Stay tuned. All right. Welcome back, everybody. Okay, the question of the day. Should you buy an expensive knife? Man, I've heard this question asked a bunch, and a lot of YouTubers have kind of put their 2 cents in, and I'm going to do mine. But keep in mind, everybody, that there are tons of different people out there who use knives for different reasons and who buy knives for different reasons. Not everybody is the same. Not everybody has the same budget, but all of us who want something, and this is really about especially expensive knives, everybody who wants something can work hard, save, and get what they want. But should you? You know, that's the question. It's really, really hard to answer that. But as you see in front of you, I have some knives spread out. All of these are mine except for the Koenig Arius, which I am borrowing from my great buddy Jake over at Bearded Gear. If you're not subscribed to Bearded Gear, you need to stop this video right now. Go over there and subscribe because he is a super awesome dude and has a great channel. So go do that right now. So should you buy an expensive knife? All of these right here are what I would call expensive knives. However, what you're saying on the table is nowhere near touching the realm of expensive knives for some people. You can buy a knife, you probably already know, anywhere from $5, even $1 with a Dolica. But, you know, around that price, all the way up into the tens of thousands of dollars. And that's a pretty big spectrum. But for most of us, you know, we start out using knives as tools, because let's face it, that's what these are. All of these on the table, even though they might be expensive, are tools, and they perform a certain task, which is to cut. So, do you need an expensive knife? Well, let's find out kind of what goes into an expensive knife. So, what are you trying to do? Are you using a tool? And is that what you want, is just a tool? If that's all you want is a tool, then something like this, the Ontario Rat number 1, or Rat 2 for that matter, is really all you need. I mean, this thing is in a decent steel. It's D2. It's very ergonomic, very well built, can do a lot of hard tasks and a lot of little tasks combined. So an excellent knife. You know, you're talking $40 knife. If you're just looking for a tool, then you're not looking at this video and saying, okay, I'm on the fence. I just want to buy a knife to cut stuff in my everyday life. I'm pretty sure most of the folks that are in that spectrum won't be looking at this video, or if they are, they might be trying to justify to themselves, do I really need a more expensive knife? Now, all these on the table range, you know, from $425 all the way up to $600. And like I said, that's expensive. But you can get a whole lot more expensive than that. So let's go over, okay, for a cutting tool. So what do we need for a cutting tool? Well, we need a blade, okay? We need an ergonomic handle. We need a knife well built enough to be able to not fail on us. And then, like I said, knives like the Ontario Rat number 1, the Saviti Praxis, all of these knives are great. They come in a steel that will do the job, but they may not be the best at it. When you start getting into the more expensive knives, you know, let's just take this one, for example, a good production knife. This is the Spyderco Paramilitary 2. This one isn't exclusive, but, you know, let's just, for argument's sake, say this was the standard version with the G10 handles just like this and S30V steel. This is about a $150 knife in that configuration. Between this and this, you definitely get more for your money versus the $40 and $150, in my opinion. Very well built, very well made. This one has a compression lock, so things like that you might not find on very, you know, inexpensive, not name brand knives. can be not only just a functional tool, but also something to kind of fidget with. And that is important to some people, and some people it may not be. But then once they get this, they're like, okay, this is kind of cool. This is fun. It's one of those things that I can actually play with. And then when I need a tool, I've got a tool. So, between that range and then, that has S30V steel. S30V steel is fine steel. It's basically the standard steel for a lot of the standard production knives out there. If it's a company that makes knives of any quality, it at least uses S30V steel. It's a fine steel. They said, well, what if I want just a little bit better steel? Well, you can still get a better steel in a knife. And, this one is the TRM Atom. This one is in 20 CV. It's arguably my favorite steel right now that you can get in a production knife. It's a $200 knife. A little bit harder to get a hold of because it's an American-made company, and that's another thing. If you want American-made, sometimes you're going to have to pay the price because, obviously, the American-made products are going to be a little bit more expensive than your offshore companies because it just costs more to manufacture here. We're hoping that we can change that in the future, but that's just the way it is right now. But okay, so I have, this one came with G10 titanium liners and a 20 CV blade, $200. As far as a tool and a very good one, dadgummit, I keep dropping knives. This one hits the mark. But it's $200, So, you don't have to spend $200. You don't have to spend, even $100 to get a good tool, but it's really depending on what you want. This is another example. It's a CRJB Felspar. Absolutely wonderful knife for $35. Anybody who wants a tool that they can carry every day and it actually be a good functioning tool that works well, that has good steel, it's in D2. You just can't beat that kind of stuff. But those kind of people that just want a good tool are not the ones who spend the big money on the knives. However, I was one of those people. I had knives, and I say I collected knives, but I never did kind of go into the realm. My first Spyderco knife was the Spyderco Tenacious. This was a $50 knife whenever I first bought it years and years ago. It's kind of fails in comparison to budget knives now, but this knife started it for me. And then, of course, at that particular time, I was looking at some of these knives, $150, $200. I was like, man, I don't think I'm ever going to spend that on a knife. Now, this is, of course, before I really got into knives. And I was just looking for a tool. And in that instance, I spent a little bit more money. I ended up getting the Spyderco Manix 2 lightweight. I forgot to put that out here, so pretend I have a Manix 2 lightweight. That one was about $100, I guess. It was in BDS. I can't remember the steel on that guy. But anyway, a little bit better steel than the 8CR13 MOV. Blah, blah, blah. And I can handle this. I didn't like the FRN handle. I did love that pocket clip. Is there something else that I could get, So then I started looking at other things, then I jumped up to something like a $150 knife for this, and then I kind of got what I wanted. Even the steels like 20 CV, this is an M390. This is not an American-made blade, but it's a very quality-made blade by Tucson. This is the TS16, M390, full titanium, steel lock bar insert. Just, on paper, this thing is an excellent, excellent knife. And it is an excellent knife. I'm not saying that it's not. It was $70, for all those premium materials. So do you need to spend that kind of money to get the higher end knives? Well, then you kind of jump up to something like the Spyderco Shaman. The Spyderco Shaman is an absolute beast of a knife that has wonderful ergonomics, S30V steel, and this is around $200. It was a little bit cheaper when they first came out, but it's a $200 knife. This knife can basically do whatever you really want it to do. It's about, the right size for a full-size working knife, but also thin enough behind the edge and a slicey enough knife to do what you need to do on a daily basis. It's just, if you're looking for a tool and you like Spyderco, I can see, and then myself included, that's exactly what I did. Is I bought a few Spydercos and just kind of went up from there. Then you start getting into, I like CPM 20 CV. And that really turns out to be a good steel for me. I really like that steel. Then I started learning about steels and kind of figuring out, oh, wow, they got a bunch of good steels and they all have their purpose. No steel is absolutely perfect. 20CV is an excellent steel. It has really good edge retention and couples that with relatively good stain resistance, but the toughness is not there. And then, you have steels that have really good stain resistance, LC200N, but not the edge retention. So, then you have something like this. This is the Quiet Carrier Waypoint in Van Eyck Super Clean steel. You've got great edge retention and corrosion resistance. This thing is basically a corrosion-resistant knife. You could throw it in salt water, leave it there for a while, and it would do absolutely nothing to the blade or the knife. This is $300. Excellent knife. I believe that if somebody is wanting an all-around good EDC knife that lives in those kind of areas where corrosion resistance is key, you can't beat this. This is actually one of my favorite knives. I really, really enjoy it. $300. All right, so between that budget all the way up to, let's say, $200, because this one, it was, little under $300, but for the most part, from about $100, $150, you can get an excellent knife with most of the premium materials, G10 titanium, 20CV. You get the Ritter Hogue, for example. Just an excellent value. When do you jump up? When do you start looking at things like this? Well, I think people only really start looking at knives like this when they start collecting. I don't know, and I could be totally wrong, guys, but I don't know too many people who own knives like this that only own one knife, and it's one of these. I just don't see it very often. When you start to get these kind of knives, you have started a collection at that point, and you've scratched an itch, and it's done it for a while, and then after that time goes away, you have to scratch the other itch. It's a problem. It's an addiction. You don't want to get in trouble doing this because you can spend some money, but that's usually where this kind of stuff goes. And it really depends on your taste, but you have knives at this price range that cater to every taste as far as, I like bigger knives. Most of these knives are pretty big. Chris Reeve Sabenza, or Chris Reeve Large and Cosi, or the Sabenza for that matter. All the Chris Reeve knives just have a reputation for being excellent EDC, very, very well built knives. And so when you're handling all these other knives, and you're like, well, these feel really good. How much better can it be? And is it worth the extra price? That's a very interesting and really personal question to your taste and what you deem to be important with your knives. Because, most of the knives that I just pulled out that are not these will do that kind of stuff. They will absolutely do the work that you need it to do. Now, all of these are 100% American made. That adds to the price. All of these are built with the tolerances that are tighter than most of the stuff that I work on, and I work in the medical manufacturing field for implants that go in people's bodies. So the tolerances that are held to these knives mimic the ones that we have to hold when we're building implants to go into people's bodies to make them better, spinal implants, stuff like that. So you're talking, as far as the manufacturing of these things, a lot harder to do to hold those tighter tolerances. Chris Reeve especially, Chris Reeve Knives has just won award after award after award for quality. And there's a reason. These things are very well built. They have a particular action. Some people love, some people hate, but they're very consistent. It's very few and far between when you hear or you pick up one in Large and Cosi and then you pick up somebody else's Large and Cosi and it doesn't really feel the same. So that's all. There's a lot to be said there. Another thing is not just the tolerance of the machining, but the intricacies of the machining. This is the Koenig Arius. This one is about and there's going to be a review of this guy's coming up. This is Jake's knife. This is the most perfect action I've ever felt on a knife. And you're like, okay, well, how hard can that be? Well, I'm just going to go ahead and tell you that there's hundreds of knives out there. And if all of them were going for the perfect action, then they would all feel like this. It's not the easiest thing in the world to do. It's just not. The manufacturing on this guy, all the chamfering and the contouring and the milling that goes into this is just amazing when you compare it to something like this. This works as a tool. It's going to last you a long time. It is going to work for most applications. But the difference between the quality of this knife versus this knife is hands down just better. And better, is it, this knife is like a $600 knife. Is it worth that much? You can't answer that question. It is up to the individual. Is this purchase something that I need? None of these knives on the table is something that I need. It is about want. I collect knives. I love knives. I love the things that go into knives. It makes me happy. So for the majority of the people that are buying these knives are ones that are trying to start a collection. They want that premium feel. It's not needed. If I just wanted a tool, I wouldn't have any of these things. But I like knives. It's just my thing. And everybody who buys these knives just loves something about it. Whether it is the person who makes it, the company who makes it, the design and ergonomics. There's plenty of ergonomic knives out there, but like the Strider SMF. This knife feels the best in my hand that I've ever felt. I mean, it really is. The ergonomics work for me in my hand size. A lot of people, they can't stand this thing. So they're like, why in the world would you ever pay $600 for a knife like that? Well, they just don't get it. But there might be stuff that they buy that I don't get. It's just that kind of hobby. And that's the way most hobbies are, aren't it, guys? I mean, it's just the way it is. Once you have a hobby, there is people that collect, baby dolls. And they pay thousands of dollars for a particular doll that was made at a particular time. I don't understand that at all. And I'm sure there are people that might come across this on the internet and say, what the hell? He's got thousands of dollars worth of knives right there. What is he thinking? That's what we're dealing with. So anybody who has purchased one of these knives, I believe, is a collector, not one of those guys who just buys a knife to use it. Unless they are really just kind of a stepping stone of, okay, this price range, these materials, and then they fall on something like this, and then that really is the only tool that they'll use. And then if it ever breaks or becomes problematic, they'll probably go back because they've been using it for 20 years. They know it's worth it. So, anyways, that's my 2 cents. You guys might totally disagree. I really wanted to just kind of put this out there. The answer to the question is, do you need an expensive knife? Technically, no, you don't. You do not need an expensive knife. If you're looking for a tool that cuts, you can spend way, way less to be able to make that happen. Now, do you need an expensive knife? I'm also going to say yes. People are going to be so pissed. I'm going to hear it in the comments. Because if you are on that stepping stone, that line of buying premium knives, and you're just kind of going up and up and up, and you're really enjoying those materials, the actions, then you will end up purchasing something like this. It's just inevitable, even if it's just to try it. Most of these knives, if you were to buy them brand new, you can sell them for nearly the same amount of money. You might lose a tad bit, but you can try them out and then sell them to get your money back just to do it. I would be, if I was a betting man, I bet that most people, once they got one of these knives in hand, would be like, ooh, yeah, that feels totally different. And it does. These things are very well built. And I've got all American-made knives on this table. They're not just all American-made knife companies that do such a great job that people pay a lot of money for. I just happen to have these, and it's just a personal preference of mine. When I buy a big item that might cost a little bit more, that I like it to be American-made. I don't all buy American-made knives. I mean, hell, one of my best budget knives of all time is the Civivi Practice and the CRJB Felspar, because they're just awesome. They are made overseas, but they are such great quality that you pay literally pennies what they are actually worth. So anyways, guys, I've rambled on long enough. I really appreciate everybody stepping by. and checking this out and just talking about it. I don't know how well this is going to go, but, it's just something that I wanted to talk about and kind of get out there. A lot of people ask me, hey, you've got some of these budget knives. You've also got some higher end knives. When do you kind of make the transition? Everybody's different, guys. If you can afford it and it's something you want, go for it. If you can't afford it, then definitely don't just jump in there. Definitely save your money. Go out, don't watch just my channel. Watch everybody's channel. Almost every review you can get your hands on the knife that you're looking for to get everybody's opinion on the blade, because everybody's opinion is different. But you can learn so much because look, I love this knife. This is the Medford 187 DP DLT exclusive, and I absolutely love this knife. But guess what? I sent this to Jake over at Bigger Gear. He's not a fan. He doesn't like this knife at all. So you want to hear everybody's opinion before you purchase, because you might see my review and be like, oh, that's so cool. And then look at his review. It's like, man, he's got some good points. So do your research. Everybody, I believe, if you love knives, will get to this point or even beyond. It is an awesome journey. I love this stuff. I love these tools. And guys, I really appreciate you stopping by. Subscribe, like, all that good stuff. Stay tuned for more because I've got a lot coming. I've even got some people sending me some more knives. I've got so much to do. It's crazy. I don't have enough time in the day. But I love all you guys. You stay safe in this crazy world that we're living in. And we will see you in the next one.